He was not, on paper, an important man. He had no corner office, no direct line to the Secretary of Defense. He was a researcher at a California think tank, and he had a problem. Not a career problem, not a funding problem. The problem was the end of the world, specifically who you call after the bombs fall. It was 1959. The Cold War had a shape, and the shape was this. If the Soviet Union launched first, the United States needed to respond. That required communication, command, and control. A military that could still receive orders after the first missiles hit. The existing system, telephone lines, relay stations, centralized switches, was, in a word, fragile. Knock out the hub. The whole network falls silent. This was not a classified insight. Anyone with a pencil and a map could see it. The man with the pencil was a researcher at the Rand Corporation in Santa Monica, California. 33 years old, born in Poland, raised in Philadelphia, the son of a grocer. He had a habit of drawing circles. He drew 3 diagrams. The first showed a centralized network, all lines flowing to one point. Beautiful, efficient, and, as he wrote, vulnerable to total collapse. The second, decentralized. Several hubs, still fragile, still killable. The third diagram was different. No center, no hub. Every node connected to multiple nodes. Every message broken into pieces, each piece routed independently, finding its own way through the mesh. He called it distributed. He called the message fragments, message blocks. And his routing logic, the way each block would find the fastest open path. Through a damaged network, he called it, in a 1962 briefing, hot potato routing. Over the next 4 years, he produced 11 volumes, 11 technical memoranda, 11 binders of mathematics, diagrams, and quietly radical engineering. The series was titled On Distributed Communications, prepared for the United States Air Force, published in August 1964. It is not light reading. It is dense, precise, dry, and buried inside it. Inside those 11 binders was the complete architectural blueprint for how global digital communication would work. Not a theory, not a sketch, a specification. In 1965, the Air Force formally recommended building the network. A TNT was brought in to review the proposal. A TNT had, at that point, the largest telephone network on Earth. They were the monopoly, the infrastructure, the gatekeepers of how communication worked. Their engineers reviewed the concept. Their verdict, the idea wouldn't work. They came back to those meetings again and again, each time the same conclusion. One AT&T engineer stopped Baran mid-presentation. "Wait a minute, son," he said. "Are you trying to tell us that you open the switch up in the middle of the conversation?" Baran said, "Yes." The engineer's eyeballs rolled. He looked at his associates and shook his head. There is a phrase for this in the corporate record. Not invented here, it describes the psychological immune system of any institution large enough to confuse its own existence with the laws of physics AT&T owned the network. AT&T knew how networks worked, and AT&T had not invented this. Therefore, it could not work. The Defense Communications Agency was then assigned to build the network, and the researcher, the man with the 11 binders, reviewed the agency. No computer experience, no digital background. The same people who had proved most hostile to everything he was proposing. He made a quiet, calculated decision. He recommended the project be shelved. Better to wait for the right team than to hand the blueprint to people who would botch it and give the naysayers proof it couldn't be done. So he shelved it and went home. In 1966, a man named Bob Taylor at the Advanced Research Projects Agency began funding a project. The goal: build a communications network that could survive disruption, that could root around damage. The engineers working on it developed a concept for breaking data into discrete blocks, blocks that would find their own paths through the network. They were proud of the idea. Then someone handed them a set of binders, dated 1964. Every diagram, every specification, every routing principle, already there, already proven, already correct. The project became ARPANET. ARPANET became the Internet. The Internet became this. The infrastructure of everything. Every message you have ever sent, every video, every search, every call, all of it routing through a distributed mesh, all of it finding its own path. Hot potato. His name was Paul Baran, not Vince Cerf, not Tim Berners-Lee, not the name your history professor wrote on the board. Paul Baran, Polish immigrant, Rand researcher, the son of a Philadelphia grocer, who spent his evenings at UCLA earning his master's degree in engineering, while working full-time at Hughes Aircraft, the man who filed the blueprint for the Internet into a set of binders in 1964, and watched the world build it from his diagrams. A few years later, without mentioning his name, he lived to see it. He co-founded the Institute for the Future. He started 7 companies, 5 of which went public. He was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. He died on March 26, 2011, in Palo Alto, California, age 84. The Internet was working the day they buried him. Every message block finding its own path through the mesh. The most dangerous idea in the world is not the one that gets destroyed. It's the one that gets filed. I made a veil, and that was the hidden